Good. Yes, we're back. Okay. Here's 5 or 6, maybe 5, 6 mistakes I've made as a freelance photographer, filmmaker slash aspiring filmmaker slash filmmaker. Specifically this past year, but also kind of in the overall 6 years since I've been doing this, since I've been at least doing the business side of things. I've been taking photos and shooting video for like 11 years now, but yeah, here's some mistakes, what I learned. Hopefully you can learn from them too. The first one is planning trips when things are good. Now, I love to travel in the many ways I've been fortunate enough to do that. More recently, it's kind of like hiking, photography, and filming trips. I wouldn't call it filmmaking trips because I'm more just filming videos, little vignettes of those trips, but I digress. Planning those trips when things were good. So last year was my sixth year. Oh, I'm so confused about all this.
5, 7, 6.
But it took me 5 years to get momentum with my business, and it was a really good year. It was my best year yet. Luckily, I was always trending, kind of linearly in the right direction as a business. But planning trips when things were good, when I was up, I shot myself in the foot there because then when I hit that January, February lull, and I already had trips planned, now there's the financial component to it where I'm kind of like, I probably shouldn't have done this. And that's just like, that's even outside of photography and filmmaking. That's just like common sense, don't bet on what you might not be able to predict. But yeah, planning those trips when things were up is definitely a mistake I made. Now, what I've learned from it is a lesson that I kind of already knew, but now I'm just doubling down on it, which is I'm still not out of the woods with the feast or famine aspect of running a small business, production company, freelance photographer, filmmaker. So yeah, planning those trips when things were going good, I have to be careful of that, learn from it. And, for now, I'm not going to stop traveling, but at least it's a good reminder of how to do it a little bit more intelligently, a little bit more diplomatically, professionally, what have you. I might even be planning a trip right now to Ireland, but no comment.
You're a madman.
So the next mistake I made, and I kind of was starting to realize this as I did my last video, which was a behind-the-scenes breakdown of the last short film project I did, but the mistake was pushing that project out in the manner in which I did. I don't want to subscribe to too many cliches, but I kind of believe that done is better than perfect. But in this regard, pushing that out and kind of needing to, admittedly, get on to the next thing, to move on to the next project, I think that was a little bit of a mistake. I'm pretty good with taking a break from editing, for example, and going to walk the dog or exercising or playing drums, and then coming back to the project and saying, let's change that, let's change this. I had tunnel vision, what was I doing here? But I think specifically the last short film project I put out, which was called The Sound of Baseball, it's only like 2 minutes and 50 seconds long. Please go check it out. I just think I pushed it out in the wrong way. I think I could have walked away from it for one more day and came back to it, and I think I could have cleaned it up in terms of the edit, the sound design, the color. I just think it could have been tightened up. And realistically, I do get eager to put things out, not because I want to move. I mean, it is because I want to move on to the next project, but it's also because I realize you can't just sit there and overthink it. But yeah, this one would have benefited, I think, from just like a day, maybe even 2, because at the end of the day, what's the difference if I release that short film, which I ended up submitting to a couple, small film festivals. But what's the difference if I upload that to YouTube on a Tuesday or a Thursday? Like, screw the upload, schedule, frequency. Take a break for like a day, even 2. Just walk away for a day or 2 and then come back with fresh eyes. Because like I said, there's quite a bit I would have changed. All right, so the next mistake I made in the last year, which is a little bit more abstract, but it was not finishing my passion project. So if you've been with my little YouTube journey this last year, I've done a couple videos, or at least mentioned it in a couple videos. I'm doing a music documentary about my brother, the band we were in, the punk band. I point to all these flyers, my drums, traveled all around, whatever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but been working on this project for years, and I'm always working on it when I have money in the bank, when I am not inundated with other client work. But I kind of set this goal, which I think is a good thing, to set those goals, to set those deadlines. And I said to a lot of people, or at least to anyone that would ask, close friends, family, yes, this is going to be done by the end of 2025. And I think not finishing it, but also telling people, like articulating that out loud, putting it out there that it would be done by this date, was a mistake.
I wouldn't want somebody tracing my steps, pointing out all the mistakes I was making.
On the flip side, I do think it's good to have deadlines, but I think what I learned here was that something like this, a passion project, which requires a little bit more of an emotional investment, which is a little bit more of a, like vehicle for, quite frankly, processing grief or just like a cathartic process, a cathartic creative process. I think it's okay to just kind of let it unfold as it does. I mean, that's a double-edged sword because, again, this project's been, I don't want to say dragging out, but it's taking me years.
10 years!
And I am, just like even the short film project I was mentioning, wanting to just get it done so I can move on to the next thing. But yeah, I think not finishing it was definitely a mistake I made, but the mistake was really telling people that it would be finished. I think there's some things that can just be played a little bit closer to the chest and kept, internalized, if you will. So. All right, so the next mistake I made was not choosing and or formulating, having a crystallized vision, a path for what it is I'm doing.
What is she doing? I never know what she's doing back there.
Creatively, professionally, what have you. So I've definitely talked about this a lot over the last year of making videos here on YouTube in earnest about photography, filmmaking, travel, what have you. I don't think, I never wanted to come on here and be an educator per se. It was more me just documenting my screw-ups and documenting the journey, the process, the wins, the losses, the pros, the cons of running a small production company, single-member LLC, aspiring to be a filmmaker, a traveling photographer, among other things, but not choosing the path. And this is where in a lot of those videos I did talk about niche. I think it's another one of these double-edged swords. So not choosing the path, for example, to just go all in on being a production company, bringing on freelancers, outsourcing the work, taking on more client corporate stuff to have a stable income and networking and striving towards that. That was a mistake. On the flip side, maybe not dedicating my efforts and energy into becoming a dedicated, DP, cinematographer for hire was the mistake. Because at the end of the day, I don't think that this would necessarily solve the problem of lulls, because there's still going to be lulls probably in any business. But I think in some ways, not choosing that path and having the crystallized vision for myself creatively, which I'll illuminate that a little bit more shortly, I think it was a mistake. I think what I learned is I am finally starting to see what it is I don't want to say I'm supposed to do, that's a little bit, grandiose, but where and what it is I think I should be doing to have the most creative and professional fulfillment.
Christy.
Without the lulls, without the financial despair and dread around the business side of things. So the last mistake I've made is thinking that one thing would be the solution. So again, going back to like all these videos I've made and kind of like my ADHD brain, all these things I'm interested in and I'm passionate about, and that was there since I was a little kid, like skateboarding, martial arts, music, now into like photography, travel, filmmaking, wildlife, conservation stuff. Any success that I might have in those areas as it relates to film, photography, filmmaking, and photography, I don't think that's the answer. I think even if my dreams were realized tomorrow and I was a quote-unquote wildlife filmmaker, that wouldn't be like some full-time thing. I still think it's a combination of things. I still do believe in, diversifying your skill set, your portfolio, what you like to ingest and read about and watch and listen to and film and photograph. So yeah, thinking that one thing would be the solution to my creative and or financial or professional, aspirations, it was a mistake. It's not going to be a job offer for Nat Geo tomorrow. It's not going to be some laurels and winning a, small short film, film festival. It's not going to be any of those things. It's going to be a combination of things, and finding enjoyment from things I love doing, again, for the right reasons. Like, I never started playing drums at, 10, 11 years old, or started jujitsu when I was like 22, 23. I didn't do those things because I wanted to make money doing them, but I was able to play drums all over the United States, all over Canada, all over Europe. I was able to travel and tour in a band for over 8 years and had some unbelievable experience that shaped who I am, especially creatively, to this day. Jiu-jitsu, I was just always interested in martial arts as a kid. Now, Here I am 19 years later. I get fulfillment out of teaching kids jujitsu and just being on the mats. I love it. And I never looked at it like something I want to make money doing. Now, to be fair, once you form an LLC with your camera, you've now overlapped the creative into the professional. So you're banking on something you are hopefully passionate about to earn you money. And that can be tricky. That can be dangerous. But I still hold true to, again, the things I got into as a kid: skateboarding, drums, martial arts. Even as a kid, making home movies with our dad's camcorder, taking photos with our Kodak disposable cameras when we go on trips. Like all those things, even to now, buying my first Canon T5i DSLR, upgrading to Sony mirrorless and forming an LLC for a photography, videography production company, I can safely say that I still think I'm doing it for the right reasons. Don't get me wrong, I'd love a little money, but it's something that I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that if I stick to it, it will pay off. Again, maybe financially too, but also, just creatively, because there are times where, these goals, these aspirations, these dreams, not to sound too, hippy-dippy, but they start to plague you. You become like, haunted with this dissatisfaction of not achieving something, but not feeling like what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing, if that makes sense. I think all that's to say too, like going back to like the music example and the jiu-jitsu example and now the filmmaking photography example, I'm a super slow learner. I'm a slow learner on drums. I'm not like very flashy, but I'm like good enough. And I did it my own way and had my own style that made me valuable to that band and made my drumming valuable, if you will. Same with jiu-jitsu. I'm not a prodigy. It took me 12 years to get a black belt. I've been training 19 years. Like I just do the basics. Like I'm going to look at filmmaking and photography and everything I want to do there in the same vein, which is it's going to take time. I'm not thinking about it of what I want tomorrow or next week or next month, or maybe not even next year, but maybe of what I think it could look like in 3-5 years from now. Being a slow learner, it's a bit frustrating at times, but again, I think if you do it for the right reasons and you're just too stupid to give up, it pays off. And maybe it only pays off creatively. Maybe it doesn't pay off financially. I don't know. You don't have to be the best. You just got to be fucking the last one standing, Oh, man. All right, that's all I got. Don't know what to do with my hands, so that's why I've been holding the mic. Peace.